Have you ever experienced a situation where your web server became extremely slow because of a database query? Yes, we have all been a victim of it before. One of the most common reasons why a database query becomes slow is because the database storage engine is forced to make a full table scan. In this video, I'm going to tell you why your database query is slow and how to resolve this issue using database indexing. Let's try and understand how your database records are stored on a disk. Now, every database record found on the table is stored in what we call page files, and these page files are organized in data blocks which are stored on a disk. So anytime you make a database query, your database storage engine has to go through all these page files to look for the records that you queried for. And the more IO operations that you do on a disk, the slower your database query becomes. So how do you resolve this issue? We can resolve this by using what we call database indexing. Think of database indexing like having a book of about 500 pages, and you're supposed to look up a word in that book. I don't think anyone is going to read through the entire 500 pages just to find a word in the book. So the most obvious thing to do is to look up the word from the index, and the index of it will directly give you a page that has that particular word. That's the same way database indexing works. So database indexing is a data structure technique that is used to look up records very fast in the database, and this reduces the number of IO operations that is performed on the disk. In relational databases like Postgres or MySQL or MySQL, database storage engine uses a special data structure, and most of the time uses what we call a balance tree to actually serve as a different storage just for the index columns. So let's say you have a table called an employee table, and this employee table will consist of fields like ID, employee name, and then the salary of the employee. With this table, there are so many kind of queries that is likely to be done. One of it is looking up the details of an employee that has a particular name, let's say Frank. Another query is to look for employees that receive a certain amount of salary, let's say a salary that is greater than 5,000 Ghana cedis or $5,000. Now, if you don't apply a database indexing on columns that are mostly queried, let's say the name column or the salary column, anytime you write your query, let's say select all from DB where name is equal to Frank and salary is greater than 500, what happens is that without a database indexing, your query is going to make a full table scan, and your full table scan is equivalent to making a lot of IO operations or disk operations, which is expensive. So look at this from this point of view. If you have about 100 records on a database, that might not even be a problem, and you won't even feel the impact of the query. But imagine you have about 10 million records. That is where you feel the effect of not having an index column in your DB. So with this, how does indexing solve this issue? When you index the name and then the salary column, which are mostly queried, your column names or the column values will serve as a key, and then they will have a pointer to the actual record in your database. So with this, they also form another data structure which will be managed by your database. So when this happens, anytime you make a query, instead of the storage engine making a full table scan, it only scans the data pages or the disk storage that has the query that you are looking for, and this drastically reduces the number of IO operations that you do. But mind you, there is a trade-off with applying database index on a table, right? One of the trade-off is that your database is supposed to manage a different storage or a different data structure apart from the normal table that it has, and this is kind of a trade-off. And there's another thing: anytime you want to do an operation such like insert, update, or delete, the database engine has to update the balance tree, and updating this balance tree is kind of another complex task. So how do you choose, or how do you index your database? Well, you only index columns which you think are mostly queried. So like for the example I gave using the employee table, it's likely that the name and then the salary fields will be mostly queried. So when you apply indexing on it, it's fine. But if you just choose to apply indexing anywhere in your table, you are going to experience a bad performance, or your server is going to be slow because of doing indexing anyhow. So the next time you are building a web server, or the next time you are building your web application, make sure that you optimize your database well with database indexing, and you do that with care. Thank you.